This exercise is about the fact that P5 and just the JavaScript language itself has some variables that are already built into the code. One detail is that you might want to be aware of some of the pre-built variables just because you don't want to create your own custom names that are conflicting with or using the same name that's already used by P5. I'm going to bring up a slide as a reference. So slide 33 is talking about reserved variables. And part of it again is they're saying you can create almost any variable you want except for using those that are already in use or reserved is a way to think of that. So this is a couple examples here. And another way to look at this, though, besides saying don't name a variable with the same thing that's already been used, is that these are things you can use. Since they're already defined in the language or in P5's library, you can basically call them. You don't need to say something like let and then the variable name to define it. You can just go straight ahead and drop in the variable name instead of a certain value. And some of these are very useful, like window width is the width of the browser, window height, the height of the browser. Mouse X is horizontal position of wherever the user's mouse is. So some of these can also help us down the road with interactivity. Mouse Y is the Y position or vertical position of your mouse. Sometimes we also just want the information, like how big is someone's window, where is their cursor to do certain activities. There's also some examples in the slideshow that you might want to play with. Like this one's, instead of giving the canvas width a static number like 400, it's dropping in window width, which really means this would vary, that you have wider screen, that the canvas would automatically fill the screen. You can also play with window height to do the same thing, where you can vertically make the canvas area just fill the device that the user is using. So that's kind of interesting. So let me go back into P5 editor. And if you look at the instructions, what we're going to do is try using mouse X and mouse Y. It's the one that detects where the user's mouse is located. The starting code for this is that there is a canvas. It's 400 pixels wide and tall, has a gray background, and there's simply a circle created so far with numbers. So you'll see 150 for height and width, and then, 150 for the vertical position and horizontal position, and then 50 is the size of the circle at this stage. So just as an experiment, what we're going to do this time is, again, so we don't need to create or define the variable. That's already done in the library. So you don't need to do anything above function or use let. Instead, what you'll do is just substitute, instead of that value 50, or rather the position, just got to grab the wrong one, you will substitute the variable built into the library. So you can drop in mouse X or mouse Y. A finished one right over here, so you can see what it looks like, and I've placed both variables. So instead of saying use a certain number that I'm predefining for the horizontal position, what I want you to do instead is just track the mouse, watch the user. And by the way, I'm pointing over the code right now, so in the preview it looks like the circle's just in the upper corner. It's kind of defaulting to 0 essentially until there's any interactivity from the user. But watch what happens if I start to move my cursor anywhere over the canvas area. The little circle tracks me, follows me. So it's actually really fun. It's kind of a simple sort of interactivity. And it's also letting you have one example of using a couple of variables that are just pulled right out of the P5 library. And therefore, again, you don't have to create them, you have to define them. You just drop them in and let them do their thing. And if you want to, you can experiment with the canvas size too. Just go back to that slideshow as a reference. And again, you can see examples there of window height, window width. Come back up to the summary slide. So that could be fun to experiment with too if you want to see the canvas size automatically changing to fit your current screen size. And this is pretty simple lab once you try that. It's just dropping in those two values and seeing the interactivity, and then you're done with this particular exercise.